Okay, so this is the special little spot. We'll see if we can find our Hidnellum regium.
Julie Beeler is walking carefully in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest. It's autumn, and she's keeping her eyes on the ground.
Its common name up in Alaska is bear poop.
The mushroom Julie is looking for is rare in southern Washington, but she knows exactly what to look for. She first stumbled upon it a few years ago and enlisted the help of a friend of hers who is a mycologist to identify it.
I held it up for him and he knew immediately it was Hidnellum regium, which was exciting because at the time it was not known to grow any further south than Alaska.
She picks her way through the undergrowth with her dog Pato until...
Look at this! We've found Hidnellum regium! Look at this beautiful specimen, 2 of them.
It's easy to see where this mushroom gets its name. It's so dark on top that it almost looks black. It grows low to the ground, and the cap has an uneven texture that, to my untrained eye, looks a lot like bear scat. Julie gently works her knife underneath and pulls the mushroom up from the forest floor. She cuts it open to reveal a lighter beige in the center, surrounded by the blue-black color from the outside.
As a mature specimen, you can see the pigment just goes all the way through this. So this is a real treasure to find this.
From the Gert Boyle studio, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. Julie Beeler is an artist and designer based in Trout Lake, Washington. She makes inks, dyes, and watercolor paints from the mushrooms she collects. Like the Hidnellum regium, some of the mushrooms she finds are not edible, but she uses a lot of cooking techniques to extract the pigments from the mushrooms. And she's one of many artists whose work intersects with the culinary world. Food is obviously part of our lives every day. We literally need it to survive. It can also be an art form, as well as creative inspiration. And I'm not just talking about elegant plating at fancy restaurants. From 15th century still life paintings to pop art, food and art have gone hand in hand for a long time. And that's what this episode is all about. Pacific Northwest artists whose creativity is inseparable from food.
So we've got all the swatches in the dye pot, and they're going to sit here and simmer for about an hour. Then we'll pull them out and see what color we get.
Julie Beeler's workspace is part kitchen, part science lab, part art studio. She uses boiling water as well as a grinder, a mortar, and other common kitchen tools to extract the colors from the mushrooms. The bear poop mushroom makes various shades of blue and green. Some of the other mushrooms she recently harvested will yield golden yellows and oranges. Julie came up with an ingenious way to keep track of all these colors.
So I created the Mushroom Color Atlas, which documents at its current form about 30 mushrooms and all the colors that are derived from them. And I created these colors by making dyes from the mushrooms as well as pigment and watercolor paint. And it's a resource and reference for people curious about mushrooms, curious about color that comes from mushrooms, how they might be inspired by that palette from the fungi kingdom.
The Mushroom Color Atlas was recently published by Chronicle Books. She says the Hidnellum regium is one of her personal favorites.
And my other favorite mushroom is a blue chanterelle. And the reason for that is it just looks like a bouquet of flowers when you come across it. And it's just the most gorgeous blue that you see light up the forest floor, and it just glistens. And of course, it makes spectacular color as well.
Julie Beeler's art is influenced by her love of mushrooms as well as her scientific understanding of fungi. She uses fabric and thread that she dyes herself.
This is part of a series that I'm creating where I'm looking and exploring the strata, the underlands.
The piece is called Fungi Strata. It's a rectangle made out of wool, dyed yellow, brown, teal, and gray, with yellow and orange thread creating a triangular pattern that's slightly off-center.
When we think about fungi
and the mycelium and everything that's happening underland in the soil and the things that we can't see. And then when we step back through geological time and think about the strata, the geological soil, and the formations that are underground, that's what the shapes of this piece represent. And then as I'm going through stitching, I'm kind of impromptu coming up with the different layers of the soil and the bedrock in the strata.
When she's not collecting mushrooms, creating dyes, or sewing art pieces, Julie Beeler leads workshops to teach other people how to make their own mushroom-infused art.
Teaching these workshops is really, really rewarding because you get so many different people that are coming at this from different perspectives, but they are all gathering around this curiosity of mushrooms. The dots start to connect and it starts to click and they unlock, and then they just have this magical smile and enthusiasm for this world that they are now starting to learn so much more about.
Her workshops at Wildcraft Studio in Portland have been well attended, and she says she's not surprised by the level of interest. According to Julie Beeler, there's something special about this corner of the world.
We're really lucky, and I was super lucky to be born and raised in the Pacific Northwest because it is truly a mushroom paradise.
Of course, not all mushrooms are edible. But for Portland photographer Isabella Cassini, it really is all about food.
I do think food is very pretty.
She says that photographing food helped her hone her skills.
I was really able to teach myself about lighting and composition, and it allowed me to explore. It's just a very versatile subject. Food is something that we all literally have to encounter and consume every day, usually multiple times a day. And I think the fact that it's so relatable in that way got me very excited to showcase certain aspects of food, whether it's microscopic things or the way in which you can tear something apart and the inside of it looks, or the way its leaf looks, or if we deconstruct that, how might we see it differently?
Isabella does a number of different things with the food she photographs. Sometimes it's artfully arranged and carefully lit as a still life.
A lot of times I would walk through grocery stores and just kind of get inspired by what was there, whether it be a prepared food or a fruit or vegetable.
Sometimes she creates intricate kaleidoscope images by carefully arranging leaves, berries, flowers, and slices of fruit.
It really is about seeing how they're all going to fit together, and it's almost as if they have a perfect place, but I just haven't figured it out yet.
And then there's the series she calls Splashes, Crashes, and Smashes.
That series allows me to explore the chaos, and I'd like to think that it also invites other people to explore the chaos for themselves, to make it okay that everything isn't perfect. Everything isn't always pretty, and really we're just all giant messes on the inside, just like a cracked egg yolk.
In her studio, Isabella Cassini set up 2 wood-framed ramps with plastic sheeting designed for food to slide down and be thrown in front of the camera. She experimented with raw eggs, cups filled with paint, delicate macarons, bowls of cereal and milk, plates of spaghetti, and other messy food. Sometimes she includes delicate breakable cups and plates. Her photo assistants stand on either side and send things down the ramps, while she stands behind the camera to capture the mid-air collisions and spectacular spills.
Oh, that was a messy one. It's been a fun process to try and figure out how velocity and timing and all of that play into each other and what might work to get the desired effect. Making stuff fly, making stuff spill, making stuff smushed.
The resulting images are a stark contrast to her still life and kaleidoscope series.
To me, it evokes a lot of different feelings: passion, Sometimes heartbreak, sometimes hunger, sometimes just fun.
There's something subversive about these photos that celebrate messiness and broken things. It's about embracing imperfection.
Yeah, there is so much beauty in imperfection with food and really everything else. I do want people to embrace the chaos in their own lives and the world around us and know that the chaos is okay.
Coming up after a break, we'll hear from an artist whose exquisite work is actually meant to be eaten. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, our podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you like what you hear, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll brighten your Monday morning a little bit with something new and exciting or delicious or chaotic to listen to each week. You can also follow OPB on Instagram at OPB Photo, or follow me directly at Jen Chavez OPB. That's Jen with 2 N's, and I'll keep you posted on what Team Evergreen is up to. And remember, this episode about the intersections of food and art and all the great OPB reporting and storytelling you hear on this show is made possible by the support of many thousands of OPB members. That's the beauty of public media, my friends. Support our journalism by becoming an OPB sustaining member today at opb.org/pod. And now, back to the show. Years ago, Gina Renault found some wooden molds in a Japanese grocery store in Portland. She wasn't exactly sure what they were for, but she felt drawn to them. So she bought them and started doing some research. She found out that these molds are used to make wagashi.
Wagashi literally translates to Japanese sweets. The wa stands for Japanese and gashi is sweets.
These are not just treats. Each one is an intricate work of art.
Traditionally, wagashi really developed alongside the tea ceremony, and that would be where you would normally see the really elegant kinds.
Wagashi are made mostly from plant-based ingredients commonly found in Japan, and they're designed to reflect the seasons.
So if it's spring, then you're going to be, playing with cherry blossoms. You're going to be incorporating sweets that bring that feeling of light and freshness. In the summertime, pools of water, references to fish splashing, about, morning dew, visually cooling and refreshing. In the autumn, the light, coming through the maple leaf brings a certain kind of beauty, and so you can use that. So yes, each season has its own colors and textures, and you can bring that into your sweet.
Gina Renault and her mother lived in Japan for 4 years when Gina was a young child. She said she relied on her mother to help her translate some wagashi recipes when she was teaching herself how to make these delicate sweets.
And she was also a really good taste tester.
Gina's wagashi include delicate pickled cherry blossoms suspended in wobbly agar, a jelly candy made to look like pieces of sea glass, and a confection called manju made with sweet lima bean paste. For most of her career, she was a graphic and industrial designer and worked at companies like Nike and Adidas. She also worked with the renowned Oregon puppet and set designer Michael Curry.
When I was young, I always had this idea, this fantasy, one day I'm going to be an artist, one day I will be an artist.
She says she never really settled on a medium for her artistic ambitions. When she discovered wagashi, she was at an inflection point in her life.
I was turning 50 in the next year. My son was starting high school, and my relationship, marriage of 27 years was coming to an end. And it was a time where I really had to reflect on what the next step was for me in my life.
After experimenting with wagashi in her home kitchen, Gina started a business called Yume Confections in 2010. Her wagashi have been covered in the New York Times Magazine, and the Travel Channel included her in its feature on Portland's top 5 culinary stars in 2012. Her confections are served at the Umami Cafe at the Portland Japanese Garden. The manju she makes is a personal favorite of Portland Monthly food critic Karen Brooks.
Eating Gina's wagashi is a full-on sensory experience. I'm obsessed with the manju. Think buttery dough, rolled out, wrapped around an intensity of bean jam paste, 13 hours in the making, I might add. The tops are glazed with a little dark soy and white wine, which gives this toasty aroma. It's like eating an enlightened shortbread cookie with a holy Oreo cream filling. Seriously. They may be small, but each one contains an entire philosophy. That's the wagashi way.
Each wagashi is small enough to fit in your hand and can be eaten in just a few bites. They are meant to be enjoyed mindfully, which makes sense when you're literally consuming a small work of art. As Gina said, these little sweets are traditionally part of Japanese tea ceremonies.
When you come into a tea ceremony, before you have the tea, the host would serve you the wagashi, and you would eat the wagashi actually before you sip the tea, and you would complete it before you sip the tea, unlike going back and forth in other cultures. So it's kind of setting the stage for the tea.
Wagashi are made with care, and each one is exquisite.
They're not mass-produced. Each is made individually for your guests.
Jan Waldman is a Japanese tea ceremony expert at the Portland Japanese Garden and Lewis and Clark College. She says Gina's wagashi are on par with what she's seen on her trips to Japan.
If you did a blind tasting for sweets, tea sweets, I think she'd be up there in the upper echelon. This is an art form, and hers are perfect little pieces of artwork each time. And her passion for doing it is just amazing.
Gina says that one of the things she likes about her little works of art is their ephemeral nature. When she thinks about people eating her wagashi, she wants it to be a memorable experience.
I want people to be delighted and hopefully find my sweets delicious. And I hope that it's something that they'll remember the time, the place, the person that they were with, that it's a reason to have a shared memory with somebody that they care about.
You can see videos about Gina Renault, Isabella Cassini, and Julie Beeler and their food-related artwork at opb.org. And I really recommend you check them out. These things look so cool. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. Julie Sabatier produced this episode, and our technical director is Stephen Cray. The OPB podcast team also includes Mia Estrada and Sage Van Wing. Jewel Gilfillan, Dan Evans, Stephen Tanthat, Lisa Swin-Callum, Geneva Chin, and Stephanie Gordon did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode is from Audio Network. If you have a question for us, do not hesitate to reach out. Just shoot us an email at theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.
All I think about all day is food. And then I dream about it all night.
It's true, she's obsessed.